Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, bro.
How's it going?
All good.
Good stuff.
Small group tonight, by the looks of it.
Yeah, it tends to be honest with you, this tends to happen in midway between like any program that kind of goes on. Have you got your camera? Oh, there you are there.
Trying to get it on, yeah.
Get it all blurred out. Hide the dead
You
bodies.
look, you look like you're in a cave, don't they?
Yeah. The guards kicked me out of the house.
It's all dark where you are.
Yeah, they set me up in the mornings for the night. Cozy for the mornings, isn't it?
Is that your tent, is it?
How's things?
Yeah,
You tired? You look tired when you get on there.
Tired enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. Well, just busy. Work is just crazy at the minute, so yeah. And then the days are just long. You know yourself, the kids.
Oh, sure. Of course. Let me change this wee second. What have I done? What have I done? I think I pinned you to the view. We'll go gallery. You think I'd know how to work this thing? Sean, how's it going, mate?
All right, lads, how are you?
All good.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. Andy, how are you?
Not bad, just
Busy night tonight? You still doing the...
Yeah, still up in St. Teresa's, and yeah, so straight in the house there like 8 o'clock. So
Seriously. Fair play to you. Do you not even get anything to eat? No?
no, I'll get something after, so it'll be grand.
Fair play. Fair play.
Warrior.
Love it. You would have had a good laugh at me, man, at the weekend there. So I was up the mornings, and let's just say I lifted a very, very heavy, like the heaviest pebble you could ever lift, and I put my back out.
Oh, this is you're sitting with your lower back.
Seriously.
Saying pebble now, you should have just said rock.
I know, but I have to be honest. Like it was like, do you know what it was? It was like this, just a little bit bigger. Oh, it'd be like, Sean, know your bowling balls that you use? A little bit around that size, right?
Right.
And there was a big rock in front of me, and we were a couple of the boys wanted to like mark the way, right? So we did. Anyway, so I grabbed this rock and just lifted it up like this in front of me, and my back just went like. But we're already like, we weren't even halfway through the walk, so it kind of settled down after about 5 minutes, and I went on, did the whole walk, and I've been in bed. I've been out of bed, like, you know, dropped the girls to school and all that kind of stuff, but pretty much lying horizontal.
Cindy, I was putting earphones in, so I missed a bit of it. What part of the back have you heard?
Just the lower part.
I done mine last year with when Carrie was born, a couple of months after she was born, and it was in a nightmare. So it was ended up going down into my leg and everything.
Did it?
Sciatica.
That's what the physio says to me
sciatica,
today.
Yeah. So physio helps, but it's the only thing it'll probably help with pain. So it is.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, I need to reframe that in my head now. It's like I need to be okay.
One thing you don't do, and this is what I did, I exacerbated mine. Don't bend forward to stretch it. I had hurt mine and then went to work and went into the bathroom and stretched, bent forward, and I have spasm in my back. So when I went to the physio, she was saying it's the backward thing that is how you stretch it.
They gave me some exercises to do today. Tell you what, I went to the physio and the guy gave it a good rubbing. And see, by the end of the physio session, like I felt, it sounds dodgy, doesn't it? I'll cut that.
I'm just smiling, so I am.
It's been a while. Oh dear. And by the time I got out, like it did feel 10 times better, like, so it did. It really did. But he was saying about if you feel it like moving down into your, your legs or whatever, then it's probably not a good thing. But lesson learned. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't be lifting pebbles when you're 40 years old.
It's just the age, isn't it?
Oh, seriously. How are you guys? Doing well?
Yep.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. We'll get a bit of feedback just on where you're at with the goals and all that kind of jazz, and then we'll get kicked in to tonight. Appreciate the flexibility, man. Last week, everything's back to normal, apart from me. But sure, it's all good.
The girls all right, aren't they?
Aye, they're grand. Yeah, they're fine. Now they're just worried that daddy has a sore back. No one knows once. So Elsie's like, I took anti-inflammatories and then it just made me feel a wee bit sick. And Elsie came up. So it was like listening to some meditation music there, just to calm me or whatever. And Elsie comes in and she's like, Dad, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, you only do meditation stuff when there's something wrong. And I was like, well, I suppose I feel a wee bit sick, Pat. Seriously, she's tuned in, that girl. But yeah, let's get a bit of feedback then we'll get kicked into tonight's session. So last week, obviously we weren't on, but the week before we were doing goals and he's got sent away. I don't think you were there for that one, Sean, but I'm sure you watched the replay anyway.
I haven't. I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't watched it.
I wasn't there either, and I haven't either.
Oh, brilliant! So we're behind. Dan, did you watch it again?
A second.
Well, I was there for the first one, so I didn't think I had to watch it again. So I didn't watch it again.
Right, okay, you get brownie points.
Yeah, I turned
in
up.
me, the little 5-year-old in me was going to say, "Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah, definitely." Yeah,
Love it. I love that.
What did you think of it? It was great.
Brilliant, so it was, yeah.
Do you know
Really
what?
good.
You probably could like get away with it. I like that last slide. Oh, why the one about?
I did listen to the podcast over it, and I thought that was very good.
Yeah, Kevin's very good now. There's so many directions. Kevin knows so much stuff. There's so many directions you can go in. But I think the thing that I really wanted to focus on was the triggers and how we're kind of conditioned and how our triggers are influencing our present moment and all that kind of jazz. He's a great guy.
Very good.
You liked the two, Dan, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was when I seen the length, it was the length of time that was on it. It was like, oh, geez, I've never listened to all of this, and I couldn't stop watching it. Like,
yeah. Did you get a chance to watch it, Andy?
No, I'm just trying to look it up. Is it that one? Is it the one with your face looking like that in the front? Oh, you can't even see that, can you?
No.
Is that there?
It was on Facebook. I watched
Facebook
it.
in the Facebook group.
well, I think you put the link in the WhatsApp, though, didn't they?
Oh, did it? All right, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did. So I don't really go onto the Facebook thing.
Check me out being efficient.
Yeah, get into the stretch zone. That was like sent on the Thursday or something. No, Thursday the 24th. Yeah, because it was the 22nd. We weren't there then, Sean. It would have been.
Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Watch the video above to find out what you need to do tonight. No, that video.
No,
That-
Unmasked, is that it? Unmasked,
Yeah,
with
Unmasked,
Gavin Young.
I think, yeah.
Oh,
I'll forward it on again here, Andy.
and I've got it. Yeah, find it here. Gone up before. That was sent on the. Was that sent on the Monday before the?
Monday the 21st, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, right,
So-
okay, yes.
Where we're at is in terms of the program is we've got into the part that's all about goal setting. So if you remember back to one of our earlier conversations, we were talking about your worthy ideal, and your worthy ideal is usually like the big dream or the goal or your mission or your sense of purpose, something that is further on down the line. and we did an exercise around getting a sense or a feel, and a visualization exercise to get a sense or a feel of some of the things that you wanted perhaps to create in your life in the future. So where we're currently at is then we took that and decided to look at goal setting. So the goal setting, Andy, had a part in it that you were interested in around motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would suggest going back and having, even if you wanted to look at just that section of it, it's early on in the presentation.
This is on Facebook, or this is actually in the WhatsApp group?
Did I send it?
It's in the WhatsApp group, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, after this, Andy, I'll resend everything. So
All right. I'm awful with WhatsApp groups. Like I get anxiety from them sometimes because things are going so many.
Yeah, I'm in like 3 at the moment, and my phone's always pinging. And I'm in one that the guy is from America, so I'm getting like random texts at no random times. But it kind of gives. Do you ever get a text message and you get a wee burst of like, "Oh, wonder who that is"?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, but then I'm looking at my phone, going, "I have no idea who these people are." You know? Anyway, so where we're at is we're at the goal setting bit. So without having goals, without having something you're working towards, all this kind of stuff that we're doing together is really pointless and meaningless, because it's really the goals and the drive to it's not even about the achievement. I've said this over and over again. It's about going on the journey and the process of moving towards things that we want and creating a life that we want. It's when we do those things that we realize where our triggers are, where our barriers are, where those kind of roadblocks are, that we can start to do something about those things, become more self-aware, understand ourselves better, let go of limiting beliefs, so that we're then changing because of the process that we're in. So the goal setting is kind of like the linchpin of it all. Without that, there's probably you'll get benefit from listening to the other parts of it for sure, but that's really the driver behind it. So it's watch the video if you haven't watched it. Sometimes I watch videos and fast forward. Do you know how you can change the speed? Because once you get used to someone's voice, you can actually listen to it faster and you'll get the same information, but you know, half the time faster, yeah. And then that ways, you know, I'm like anybody else. I can go off and waffle shite for a while that's not really connected. Do you know what I mean? So you can get past that kind of stuff, the fluff, quicker as well. So if that might be helpful for you to listen to it fast forward. I think it's an hour and a half or something. So I have a template that I will, again, after this call, I'll send to you guys that helps you figure out your 90-day goals, your 60-day goals, your 30-day goals, and then your non-negotiables. Your non-negotiables are the things that you do every single day to achieve your 90-day goal. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get in the habit. Let me take that word out. Try. We're not trying. We're getting in the habit of becoming goal setters, because quite a lot of us, me included, can go on months without even thinking about what are my goals, what am I working towards, what am I creating in all the different aspects of our life, not just, you know, in family and health, all of that kind of stuff. So I should really be setting some 90-day goals for my health, considering I need to do lots of stretching. But I'll send that stuff on, watch the video, and then if you have any questions, then you can
just
ask.
thinking, sorry, Venti, you sent on the thing as well, the Wheel of Life exercise. I think that's important to do probably first.
Yes, very important.
You do that first, and then that kind of gives you an eye opener into where you want to improve. Or
excellent.
Yeah.
Do you want to swap?
No. No, I just found, like, I know last week you were saying about getting into the goal setting, and I was just like sitting thinking like, what do I want? I don't know what I want. And then I sat down and spent a good bit of time doing that wheel of life. And it was even difficult to some degree doing that, to give yourself a mark in a certain area where how happy you are, how content you are.
Yeah.
In each category, there could be so many contributing factors that it's hard to weigh things up. Like just looking at one there, like one of them is fun, leisure, and recreation. Like as a family, we go out every weekend, but I don't do anything really for myself other than the odd walk now and again. So it's down as a 5. But I think if I'm doing stuff for myself, it'll get closer to a 10.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, my own things.
Yeah. Even the likes of that wheel of life there, Dan, how you're describing it, you know, you could, you don't have to take each of those sections as these are the sections that you work on. You might look around it, for example, and go, well, in my life, you know, I don't know, like, let's take spirituality. Spirituality doesn't matter, right? In my life, spirituality doesn't matter. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm actually going to have, you know, fun time with the family as its own section.
Own section, yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can alter it and change it so that it suits you and what's important to you. Some of the ways I've done it in the past is actually have a blank wheel of life and get people to fill in those sections. So it was really a guide. How did you find the exercise then, Dan, going from that into the goal setting?
The goal setting, I still haven't really sat down and figured out exactly what I want. I'm actually finding that quite difficult to set goals that are, I suppose, you need to know what you want first of all, and that's the bit I'm struggling, and that's the bit that I had even put into the original. Can't remember what the headings were, but you know, the original piece of paper that we had to do out for you.
Yeah.
Even on that, like there was a lot about just not knowing, like, if am I content really? Is there more, or is this it? And I think that's the challenge for me, is trying to figure out what the more bit is. You know, and actually putting, I suppose, naming them and putting tasks around them to get them improved on, or going in a direction, starting to go in a direction of where.
So could you give me, just so I know in my head, like where you're maybe specifically struggling, can you give me an example from your wheel of life then? And then where you're struggling to, you know, to take that into goals?
I suppose like personal growth and learning is one. Like I've done a degree there a couple of years ago. So like personal growth to me is education, you know. So I've gotten that bit. Personal growth and doing this course is kind of another thing which is going to help me in that direction, which is again something I spoke about on the original thing of why I'm doing it. That's it. I suppose for me, it's like nailing down exactly what I want for personal growth and learning. Like this is a part of that, I suppose. But after this, I know this isn't just a course, as you said before. It's a guide on how to continue going. But again, it's just identifying those things that I want, and I don't know what they are. So until I figure that bit out, it's hard to put goals in place.
Yeah. So there's you don't know what. See, when it asks you, what would 10 out of 10 look like in that area? So when it comes to personal growth and learning, what would 10 out of 10 look like in that area? How are you answering that currently?
I don't know what it would be like. I don't know what I want.
So that is the struggle. It's that particular question. You're going, don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I want.
Is there anything that comes to mind, or is it complete blank?
The only things that really come to mind are going and continuing on with education, trying to go maybe a slightly other direction than what I'm in now, and I suppose expand on the opportunities that I might have if I educate myself a different direction. But other than that, I don't know, like the personal growth is, to me, is something like this, you know, trying to figure this out. And it'd be one of those things like the more questions you try to answer, the more questions actually appear from that one. Seems to be just this.
Yeah.
I think personal growth is one of the sections where the other ones maybe feed into it. So if you're achieving in the other ones, personal growth would, it's impacted by the other spokes,
Yeah.
like spirituality and different ones, friends and family, different things.
I guess it depends on, like, if we were working one-on-one, I'd want to know, like, what's your perspective of personal growth? Like, what does that look like or mean to you? Because once we can figure out what that means to you, like, could mean different things to different people. Do you know what I mean? So for me, personal growth is about doing my meditations. It's about overcoming blocks in my life. It's about, reading and studying and becoming a better version of myself. For other people like Sean, like personal growth, like Sean described, our personal growth can be a byproduct of just exercising, for example. It's maybe not something that you go and specifically do something about, as opposed to as a byproduct of investing time in other areas of your life. What I would say there, without like digging any deeper, we'll leave it at that. What I would say is you've got a little bit of an answer there, right, to that question around, well, maybe I could go on and do a little bit more study in a different direction, right? And right now, like, you don't have to be 100% committed to that being like a thing yet. Okay. I say this to clients often because sometimes we get into habits of like ways of expressing ourselves that actually shut down answers. Do you know what I mean? So I'm working with a guy at the moment, and when I ask him a question, maybe around what he wants, or whatever, straight away, automatically, it's like, well, I don't really know. And then you dig a wee bit deeper, and then there's stuff that starts coming to the surface. So what I'd be saying there is, like, always be willing to listen to, I would say that's your unconscious mind giving you something. You've asked the question, what is it I want? Your unconscious mind goes, here, what do you think about going and doing a wee bit of extra study? Right? Now, what we get to do with that is we get to then use our rational mind and go, does that make sense? Do I have the finances? Or what is it that I would love to go and study? We get to like dream and imagine and engage all of our other mental muscles that we'll talk about tonight. But like what I'm trying to say is I would encourage you to like fall in love with the ideas that you're given straight away. Like, get out of the habit of like shutting them down or thinking, I'm not too sure about that. Engage your mind, allow it to kind of play with the idea, because it just might be the thing. It just might be the thing. It might not. But unless you accept the idea, first of all, as a possibility, you're going to remain stuck. Because what sometimes happens is you accept the first idea and then you realize, this is what happened to my business, over and over and over again. I've tried something, got an idea, tried it, went, that was good. And then slowly but surely started moving towards things that were more aligned with who I am and what I enjoy personally, which is why we're doing things like this and going up the mountain and that kind of stuff. So it's the same with your ideas. You might get the idea to go and study, and you might end up going, do you know what? You go down the line of that a little bit and you go, do you know what, that's not for me. But another opportunity might spring off the side of that if you hadn't said yes to that, you wouldn't have got to the next opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Brilliant. If you need a hand with it as well, Dan, like, I'm happy to help any of you guys, go through that process. Not a bother.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how other people find it and get on with it.
It's a challenging task.
Yeah. It's just
It's-
I know the group was very quiet as well. So I wonder, is there a lot of us in the same boat just trying to figure out what we want and align the specific tasks or direction?
Which probably would make sense why the group was quiet then when they asked people to put their videos up.
Makes sense. Yeah.
My phone was broke.
That's it. Like, yeah. So that I'll put a wee post up in the group then and just offer if people need help, because there's no point us moving on until we're all have got this section done. Do you know what I mean? Because this is the important stuff right now. Brilliant. Okay, so any questions on any of that stuff? Were you just happy enough for me to resend stuff? And yeah,
It's all on there. I found it all there. I've been looking through it, like the See Me with the Wheel of Life. This 30, 60, 90 day thing, it looks a wee bit more intimidating though. I can see the intimidation there, like kind of, yeah, that'll take a wee bit of going through.
yeah. It's really, do you know, at the end of the day, it's really taking an idea and bringing it down to the very first step that you need to take. It's kind of, I just see the ideas as a funnel. Do you know what I mean? Here's the big idea, and you're kind of breaking it down to the very first step that you need to take. But it does, you know, it's on a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are intimidating enough to me.
I know ultimately that's very efficient to have it on a sheet with it all in front of you, but I think it'll be something I have to write out and
You
other
do it
paper first.
whatever way
Yeah.
works for you. I personally don't use a spreadsheet. I use my book. But I thought the spreadsheet, just having it all in one place and people can follow. Dan likes a good spreadsheet, don't you, bro?
We use spreadsheets every day, so that's just normal. I was going to send it back with a couple of formulas to auto-populate the dates and stuff for you.
Oh,
Well, do you know what? I was going to phone you before I sent it off to everybody, so maybe you could do that for me. Excellent. Well, let's get kicked into tonight's training then. And we'll see how long it takes me to do this.
Okay, we just sit and watch you struggle.
Yeah. I just have this smile on my face like, oh, it's all easy breezy, not a problem. No, you're in the way. Right, there's something going on there. Can you see that on the screen? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Loading.
something trying to load.
Yeah. Come on, you can do it. Swear you wouldn't think that I was paying for like fast internet here. Great. Can you just turn your mics off and your videos, please? Slide. Excellent, fantastic, great to see us back. Week 4 of our MindFit program. Week 4, we are delving into your mind and how powerful your mind is. And this is really important lesson. It's an important week because the reality is we all have a mind. We all have a very unique mind. Our mind is different to everybody else. How we view and see the world and operate in the world is different to everybody else on this program. So it's important for us as men to understand our mind, understand how our mind operates, because when you understand how your mind operates, you're able to understand patterns that you have in your life. You're able to understand how the past influences your present moment. And when you understand all of that, it puts you in a better place to be able to make better decisions and to be able to shift perspectives and be more flexible in your life, in your relationships, in your businesses. And when you're more flexible, then it means you can get more out of life. Because what we keep on coming back to is this idea that we all want to, I guess, have happiness, have contentment, have peace in our life. And part of that for me is understanding how your mind works and the different programs that are running in your mind that stop you from actually experiencing more peace and more happiness and more joy and contentment in your life. So we're going to get stuck in. Some of this you'll already know from previous slides or probably previous work that you've done. But go with us and you are bound to learn something new for sure. So I want to rewind the clock, and we've talked about this again in previous programs. This idea of programming. If you have a child, or if you've ever been a child, or if you have a niece or a nephew, you'll know that between the ages of 0 and 7 are the most magnificent time of a child's life. There's so much growth and so much development that happens. You imagine a child coming into the world, you know, not being able to talk or walk or move, really relying on the parents for its every need. And over time, this child starts, you know, developing the use of its muscles, being able to move more, being able to communicate in different ways. And by the time, you know, a child becomes a toddler, they're into everything and they're experimental, and, you know, they have this ability to rage in one moment, you know, full off crying and being happy and joyful in the next moment. And by the time, you know, they're past the toddler stage, you know, and they're going to primary school and that kind of stuff, there's a real difference. A massive difference you can see between a baby and a kid that's going to primary school. And the age between 0 and 7 are probably the most important, the most important time in our lives, because between 0 and 7, our minds are completely open. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that we have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. There's 2 parts to our mind. Some people say that there's 3, possibly 4 parts to our mind, but we're just going to focus on the conscious and the unconscious. So between 0 and 7, your mind is literally open to what psychologists call programming, or the imprint period. And the imprint period is the mind is soaking up everything that it needs to know how to operate and be in the world. So whatever cartoons we're watching as kids, or whatever television our parents let us watch as kids, all of that on an unconscious basis is getting flooded into our unconscious mind, and it's being remembered and it's being kept there. Whatever books are being read to us, whatever fairy tales, you know, are being read to us, it all gets stored at an unconscious level. The communities that we grew up in, you know, so even as a child, if, you know, you grew up in poverty, for example, compared to someone who may be a little bit more affluent, each of those experiences get stored from the moment you're born. And there's evidence to say, even when you're in the womb, there's things that get stored in the unconscious mind around community beliefs and poverty and affluence and all that kind of stuff, and the culture that we grew up in. So they're the most important parts. It's the most important time of our life, because all this stuff is being fed in to our unconscious mind. Some other things that are really significant are significant emotional events in our life. So a significant emotional event might be when you're a child, maybe you experienced a breakup in your family. Maybe you touched a cooker and your hand got burnt and it was highly emotional for you, and that's stayed in your mind. These significant emotional events become a reference point for our unconscious mind the older that we get. So if you've went through a highly nobody gets through 0 to 7 without having some sort of significant emotional event. It doesn't mean like high levels of trauma. It means high levels of emotion. So that can be, anything that happens to a child, whether it's like, its favorite toy being stolen from it, or whether it is some sort of neglect or abuse or things like that. Secure attachments, how attached we feel to our parents, the love that we get, the care that we get, is there physical touch, is there lack of physical touch? All of this gets put into the unconscious mind, and we create meanings around this stuff, and it shapes our persona, it shapes our ego, it shapes our identity and who we believe that we are as people. It creates our values, it creates our beliefs, and it really shapes how we see the world. When you're about 7, then rationality kicks in, your conscious mind kicks in, and there's almost like you have now this ability to be able to question your beliefs and question your understanding about the world, which is why, when kids are 7, 8, 9, there's tons of questions about how the world works, and they might even stand up to you as a parent a little bit more and test your knowledge around how the world works, because now they have this ability to rationalize and think, because they have this unconscious mind is closed off now. So rather than it being programming, it's more into an experiential kind of thing. So what I'm really saying is that between 0 to 7, you're creating your blueprint of life. So this is your map of the world, your model of the world. And it's your model of the world that you carry with you for the rest of your life, unless you start delving into some of your unconscious biases, your unconscious rules, your unconscious beliefs, and changing those. For many people, for many men, we all know people who maybe never get to a point where they do any kind of inner work or therapeutic work or healing from the past. And, they are operating from a blueprint that was set for them between 0 and 7. And that's really, really important for us. I think it was Tony Robbins said this: if your life conditions match your blueprint, then you'll be happy. Okay, so if you have a blueprint and you're looking about your life and those things are matching, so if a blueprint for happiness is that you're married and you're in a happy, you look at your life conditions, you're married, you'll feel a sense of happiness. If your life conditions don't meet your blueprint, you'll experience some level of pain or discomfort. So what this is really saying to me, and what I want to emphasize to you guys, is the level of contentment that you have, or the level of pain that you have, is never about the outside world. It's not about our life conditions. What it's about is our blueprint. It's about how we've been conditioned and programmed from an early age. And is that helping us? Is that hindering us? Is that matching up to our expectations in life? So your blueprint is set from the very beginning, and we now have the opportunity, when we experience pain or if we want more happiness in our life, to actually go in and look at the blueprint and begin to change things from that plan. So we have our conscious mind and we have our unconscious mind. Let me just move this a little over here. Wait a second. We have our conscious mind, we have our unconscious mind. So the conscious mind makes up about 5% of our mind, which is very, very little. So it's a little bit like an iceberg. And I'm sure you've heard these analogies before, whereas an iceberg often has just a little piece of the iceberg poking up through the water. But when you look underneath the water, there's a lot more substance to the iceberg below the water usually. And that's like our unconscious mind. So our conscious mind makes up 5% of our mind. And our unconscious mind, which is below the water, it's the stuff that we don't see, it's the things that we're not aware of, makes up for 95% of our mind. So what's really important for us when we're looking at our blueprint is to allow the things that are in our unconscious to become more conscious. And the way that we do a lot of that kind of work is through introspection, through reflection, through meditation, and through questioning, and through understanding our triggers. And pretty much what the process is that we're doing here together, it allows the things that are running our life at an unconscious level to come forward. So the conscious mind contains all of the thoughts, all of the memories, all of the feelings, all of your wishes that you're aware of at any given time. So your conscious mind is what you're aware of right now. So when you look about your room and you're seeing your window, you're seeing, I don't know, a sofa or a bed or a person, or you're feeling a pain in your back, or you're feeling your heartbeat, that's all things that are in your consciousness. You're aware of that. Maybe you're aware, and just slightly in the back of your consciousness, that if you have a meeting tomorrow, or that you're tired, or that you're thirsty. These are all things that are in our awareness, but most things actually aren't in our awareness. So if I ask you to pay attention now to how your left foot feels, that wasn't in your awareness until I asked you to place your focus and your attention there. So there's so much of our experience in life is out of our consciousness. It's out of our awareness. So your unconscious mind, which is the 95%, your unconscious mind is what preserves the body. It's what keeps your heart beating. It's what keeps the temperature right. If you think about it, you've never like woke up in the morning and thought, oh gosh, I need to breathe now. These things happen automatically, and it's your unconscious mind that keeps that happening. Keeps you breathing, keeps your heart moving, keeps everything regulated. The other thing your unconscious mind does, it keeps you safe. It's its highest priority is to keep you safe. So that's in a physical sense, but also in an emotional sense. Because your unconscious mind is your emotional mind. It's where your emotions are stored and where your emotions originate from and come from. Your unconscious mind, believe it or not, records every single thing that has ever happened in your life. Not only does it record it, but it stores it as memories. And that's why sometimes people can have memories pop up that they haven't thought about ever in their life, or why sometimes if you help people through regression in hypnosis, they can remember things that they've never remembered before, because your mind keeps and stores and remembers everything. And what's interesting is that it actually offers your conscious mind unresolved traumas and unresolved emotions and unresolved memories to fix and to heal only when the time is right. Okay. And I can see that in my own life. Only when the time is right have I thought about, healing some of the things from the past. But that's the role of your unconscious mind, is to keep you safe and to know when it's okay for you to delve into some of the traumas and unresolved memories and emotions of the past and to heal those. Your unconscious mind also follows orders. which is really, really important when it comes to how we think. So if I ask my unconscious mind, if I just say, why am I so stupid? The unconscious mind will take that as a direct order and will go into all the little files, go through the files and give me 10 different reasons why I'm so stupid. But if I ask my unconscious mind a different question, which is, maybe ask my unconscious mind, how can I be better at this subject? How can I improve? Then it goes in, gives me lots of different ways I can improve in a particular area. So it follows orders. So if we're always running about, if you think about, we have all got this self-talk going on. So if we're always running about with a negative, overpowering, demeaning self-talk, what you're actually doing is you're giving orders to your unconscious mind to believe that. And one of the ways things get trapped in the unconscious mind is through repetition. Okay, the more that you repeat something, the more that your unconscious mind takes it as a direct command to believe those things, which is why building habits is done through repetition. Building good habits or building any habit is done through repetition. So it responds to instinct. So it's your fight, flight response is all done unconsciously. You could be walking down the street and then a car could be just, driving along and lose control, and you could jump out of the way before it even gets near you, because it responds on instinct. It's always aware of what's going on around you. Its highest priority is to keep you safe. So it's always at work. It's always for you. And what we want to do when we're looking at our blueprint is to become masters of our unconscious mind, because it's running the show. 95% of our mind is in at the unconscious level. So what I want to do is 6 mental muscles. There you go. So we have 6 mental muscles that we'll explain next week. But they're mental muscles that when we learn these mental muscles, when we learn what they are and when we implement these mental muscles, it gives us more control over our mind. Okay. So one of the mental muscles is our reasoning faculty. Okay. So it's our ability to be able to think pros and cons, to accept or reject an idea. And that becomes really, really crucial when we're talking about, if 95% of our mind is running the show, then we got to be careful of what we accept into our mind as reality, especially when we're looking at goal setting, when we're looking at achieving new things in our life. So your reasoning faculty, which is really that barrier between your conscious and your unconscious mind, your ability to think something through, accept or reject something, is a mental muscle that we don't exercise nearly as much as we ought to and as we need to. So next week, we're going to get into some of those other mental muscles so that we know what they are, and then we can start implementing them, and that we can have more control over our mind and over our thinking. So what I want you to do, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to demonstrate the power of your mind right now. We all have the most powerful mind possible, powerful at any computer in the whole world. So I want you just to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine in your left hand that you are holding a lemon. And just look at the lemon in your left hand and pay close attention to the lemon. See how the lemon is shaped. Is it a big lemon? Is it a small lemon? Is it more circular? Is it more oval shape? Sometimes lemons have little points, at the end. When you get up close, it's almost like the lemon can have little dimples all over the skin. Feel the texture of that lemon that's on your hand. Just notice, is it waxy? Is it not? Is it heavy? Does it feel dense? Maybe give it a little squash in your hand. Okay. And I want you just to take that lemon and just bring it up to your nose and have a little smell just of the skin of the lemon. And you might just get that slight smell, lemony smell that has a little zing to it. But it's ever so slight because we haven't cut it open yet. But you can smell that there's something lovely going on. Once you take that lemon, I want you to put it down on a table in front of you. And I want you to grab a knife, okay? And you're going to just observe as you take this knife and you just push it in right the way through the center of the lemon. And you can see all that juice just squirting out. It's like a little puff of lemon juice just squirting out, and you can see it running out onto the table. And the smell then just hits you, and it's really pungent and really strong. It's beautiful, fresh lemon, zesty smell. And just cut right the way through and just watch as the lemon falls open and see the juices just flowing out of it. You might see a couple of little pips in it, the flesh of the lemon feeling really wet. And when you pick up one of those lemons, and again, have a sniff. And then I just want you to take a big bite of that lemon. And just feel that as it goes into your mouth. And that tingly sensation that goes on in your mouth, that bitterness. And then you can put it down. For most people that do this exercise, you can open your eyes. For most people that do this exercise, at some point, their mouth might have started salivating a little bit, or some people actually get like a whiff of a lemon or feel like a sense of freshness in their mouth or in their nose. Some people can go full hog and actually have a full experience of eating a lemon where they get the bitterness and everything that's going on. Whatever happened for you, and it's totally fine. It's how your mind works, and that's totally great. Well, the point of this is that our minds are so powerful that even by how we think and the images that we play in our mind, it can create bodily reactions within us. And why is this important? It's important because actually we want to become masters of our own thinking and masters of our own mind. Because let's go back to the idea of it's not even an idea, the understanding that we all have self-talk. We all have this inner dialogue that's going on. We all have this ability to be able to imagine and to visualize things. And quite often what we do in life is that we fall into the habits of imagining things worse than they are. And it quite often is a protective mechanism. But we get into these habits of imagining worst case scenarios, particularly when it comes to our own lives and things that we want to achieve. So whether it's a new business that you want to set up, or whether it's becoming more fit, or whether it's a new job that you're going for, our minds can almost automatically fall into a negativity bias. And we're imagining how we can go to an interview and we can totally mess it up, and we forget who we are and all the experience that we have. And even when you start thinking about that now, you can feel that sense of anxiety building up. Or we're thinking about exercising, and we're thinking about how unfit we are and how long it's going to take us to feel fit again. And it can just make us feel really down and unmotivated to do things. So whether you think and imagine things in a positive light, or whether you imagine things in a real negative light, doesn't really matter, because your unconscious mind takes your positive way of thinking or your negative way of thinking and believes it to be true. It doesn't. When you imagine things, it doesn't know the difference between what's being imagined and what is actually real. And this has been proven over and over again with different studies. And I'll put links up to the studies after this. There was a study done with a basketball team, and one basketball team trained the normal way, showing up 7 o'clock, early mornings, doing sprints, practicing their basketball shoot. It's basketball shoots. I don't even know if that's the terminology, but practicing, shooting, all that kind of stuff. They did it the normal way. There was another group that purely used visualization, the power of their mind, to imagine taking these shots, taking these perfect shots. And it transpired that the people that used their imagination improved way more than the people that did it in real life. Why is that? Because when you're using your imagination, you can imagine things to be perfect. But when you're doing it in real life, there's obviously room for error. You're not always going to get that perfect shot in. So purely by imagination, it was conditioning the unconscious mind to do something in the correct way. So the encouragement here for us is to become masters of our own thinking and masters of our own mind, and become aware of how we're thinking, what we're thinking, because what we're giving energy to will grow more in our life. So we've just finished the goal setting bit. So when you're thinking about your goals, you can now catch yourself when you're thinking negatively about your goals, or when you're imagining worst case scenario. And you can use the power of your mind then just to reframe that, to rethink that, and be thinking, okay, well, what if this went a better way? What if this went a really great way? What if the outcome was better than what I could possibly expect? We want to get better at training our mind to do that. So what's actually happening in our mind? I found through all the training I've did, I found this model. It's called the model of the mind. It's from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I find this to be really, really helpful in helping me understand what's actually going on inside our minds. Okay, so this is like a bigger picture view of it. Each section of this you can chunk all the way down and get into more detail. So I'm going to give you a big overview here of what's actually going on inside your mind. So if you imagine that there's over 12 million bits of information going on, happening on the outside, okay? So you've got you, your mind, your body, you've got all this information that is floating about on the outside. And we need a way of being able to take all of this information and to be able to receive it, okay? So that's where our 5 senses come into play. We've all got 5 senses: with visual, audio, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Okay, our sense of taste, our hearing, our feeling, visual. All of that acts as little antennas that are picking up bits of information. There's no way that our mind can ever process 12 million bits of information. It's too much going on, okay? So this is what happens. Imagine you have an external event. It could be anything from a football match to moving house to sitting watching this training right now. But there's something happening externally. So what happens is our senses pick up on all of this, pick up on the external event, gets brought into your mind, and we do 3 things with the information, okay? We delete, we distort, and we generalize. So deleting information is a bit like, have you ever lost your keys? And this happens to me all the time. Have you ever lost your keys and you've put them down somewhere and you're running about the house? Maybe you're late, maybe you need to get to work, but you're running about the house and you're going, I always leave my keys sitting right beside the door. They're not there. And you're running about and you're looking upstairs and you're downstairs and you're saying to your partner, you must have lifted those keys. And they're like, no, they're downstairs on the table. And you go downstairs and look on the table again, it's not there. And then your wife or your partner or your child comes down and goes, there's the keys there. They were sitting there the whole time. That's an example of how we can delete information. It's also another example of deleting information is our unconscious mind will do this. When I asked you, you know, what's happening in your right foot right now. The information wasn't important a second ago, but now it's important because I've asked you to focus on it. So we're always deleting bits of information. It's a way of filtering out information that we believe, our unconscious mind believes isn't important for us to know right now. Okay. So the other thing that we do is we distort things. Our mind distorts things. And an example of this would be if you've ever camped in the forest and you're all sitting around the campfire, you're having a good crack, and it's time for bed. You go to bed and you're lying in your tent, and you fall over to sleep. And then you wake up in the middle of the night. It's all quiet, but you are convinced you can hear footsteps outside, and there's the rustling in the trees, and there's like cracking of sticks, and you start going, there's someone outside, and you're too scared to actually go out and see, because it could be like a crazy sheep, it could be a person, it could be a murderer, but your mind starts playing tricks on you almost, and it distorts the information that's coming in. And you know, it could just be the wind blowing the trees outside, but in your mind you are convinced that it's somebody right outside your tent ready to pounce on you. So our mind distorts information, you know. The last thing there that it'll do is it'll make generalizations. So generalizations are really important, because if you take an example of a cup of tea, so we all have generalized in our own mind what a good cup of tea is. Okay, so somebody says, you know, Vinty, do you want a cup of tea? They'll have an idea of what that is. You know, it's, you put water, tea bag, and a bit of milk and maybe some sugar. Okay, so there's a general way that you do this, which makes it easier. So you don't have to guess every single time that it comes to make a cup of tea. You're not guessing, or you don't have to figure it out from the very beginning. A better example of this would be, again, it's a study that was done. Sorry, my back is twinging here, but sore back. There was a study done with kids and adults, and there was a door. And if you imagine the door, usually you open it on, is it the, I suppose it depends what way. If you're coming into a door, maybe you open it on the right hand side. But the hinges of this door were put on the wrong side, okay? And the handle then was put on the same side of as the hinges. And it was specifically done to see who could figure out how to open this door, okay? So lots of adults came up, and they came up and they obviously didn't see the hinges. They came up and they grabbed the handle, turned the handle, pulled it a few times, wasn't opening, and they couldn't figure out how to open this door, okay? It wasn't until a child came up and tried to open the door, kind of maybe kicked it once or twice, and then looked on the other side and saw there's a little gap, got the wee fingers in, and opened the door effortlessly. Now, what's important about that is that as adults, we have had more time generalizing how to open doors. You know, you open doors with a handle, and there's a certain way that is set up, and there's a certain way that it works. But as kids, they have more flexibility in their imagination. They haven't spent all that time creating generalizations. So our mind generalizes information that comes in. So you have the external event comes in through our senses. We're deleting things, we're distorting things, we're generalizing things. And what that does then, it creates a representation in the back of our mind, an internal image. And that internal image then will have some self-talk attached to it. Okay. That self-talk then creates a feeling or a state. That state then happens, creates a reaction within our physiology. Okay, so take that example of the lemon. We were imagining a lemon coming in, we were deleting, distorting, generalizing things. There was internal representation that created a feeling maybe of curiosity in ourselves, and that created a reaction in our own physiology. Okay. Whatever your state is, whatever your feeling is, then creates a behavior. And then your behavior creates a result. Okay. So what does all of this mean? It means this. This is one thing it means, and this is the thing that I want to leave you with tonight. It's this idea that perception is projection. Okay. So perception is projection presupposes that we can only perceive what is already in our consciousness, what is already in our mind. Okay. Perception is projection says that you're not so much perceiving the external world as you are projecting what you carry inside out into the world around you. So you have a representation of what is going on outside because you've deleted information, you've distorted information, you've generalized information. It's not an exact representation of what's happening outside. It's a perception based on your filters, based on your biases, based on your beliefs, based on your rules and your assumptions of what is happening outside. So the world is a reflection then of your inner thoughts, your inner feelings, your values, and your beliefs. In other words, the outer world is a reflection of what's going on inside of you, which is why people can have different experiences of the same event, which is why some people listening to this right now will be, whoa, that's really great. And other people will be saying, not too sure, didn't really enjoy that. You are watching the same thing, but it's being filtered differently through your own blueprint of the world, your own map of the world, your own model of the world. So what we perceive outside ourselves, what we perceive to be outside of ourselves is who we are. That means we can't perceive anything outside of ourselves that is not us. This is a very important concept that we'll discuss in the NLP practitioner training. So this perception is projection is one of the things that really, when you get it and when you understand that we're experiencing the world from the inside out, it means that there's more choice for us to be able to, I guess, understand other people, to be able to respond to situations. It helps us understand that we are the creators of our own life. And if we want things to change, then it's about changing that blueprint, that inner world, in order that we'll experience something different on the outer world. So perception is projection is one of the key, I guess, pillars in personal development. It's understanding that we create our world from the inside out through our filters, through our beliefs, through our understandings, and through our blueprints. You can stick your videos on there. Let me see. Any questions about that? Any thoughts, insights?
I thought it was quite good, but well, very good. But in terms of the last part in particular, the perception and projection thing, just means that nothing's real. Everything is just a construct of ours. But it's good in terms of, you know, it's how we perceive things and how we interpret things is what it means. It's how it creates feelings in us. And I think myself personally, sometimes you're driven by a lot of external things and other people's actions and different things. So I think the way you framed it there was brilliant at the end. I really like the analogy and the lead up to it, and then it is something I'll take away from tonight.
Perception is projection is like, it's the thing that changed everything for me, because it allowed me to take responsibility then for my life. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm responsible for what happens within me and what I'm projecting out into the world, you know, and then it also helped me understand that idea that whatever I see in other people is a reflection of me, good and bad, right?
Yeah.
So when I see good things in you, Sean, it's like I cannot see the good things if it wasn't in me. Do you know what I mean? So as a personal development thing, that was a massive shift for me, because I used to look up to people and go, oh, I would love to be like them, and they're so wise and calm, and I don't know, whatever traits they had.
Yeah.
But like, because we're we're creating the world from the inside out. If I didn't have those things within me already, I wouldn't have recognized them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same with, you know, it's the same when we get annoyed with people and their behaviors. You know, so if we think that someone is like, my father-in-law's phoning me, so that's good timing. So me and my father-in-law have a wonderful relationship. And what do we call it? There's some of his personality traits that really just grind me, right? But it's because, but I have to recognize that they're grinding me because they're in me. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes when it comes to those negative kind of traits, if you see like aggression in someone or anger in someone or frustration, or like people who are kind of like, there's a word that won't come to me, kind of egotistical and stuff. Sometimes it means that there's the reason that's irking us and annoying us so much is because there's a part of us that believes that to be true about us, or there's a part of us that isn't healed from something of the past. So if someone annoys you, it's actually a really good thing, because it's an invitation to go in and to figure out, right, what is going on here? What buttons are being pressed? Why is it that when I see my father-in-law and he says this particular thing, that I get really frustrated and annoyed? Or why is it that I, see this quality in him? And we begin this kind of self-reflection thing. So the perception is projection, is kind of one of those key things to wrap your head around. And it melts your head because, well, melted my head because it meant do you know what else it meant? It actually means that I have to be able to forgive other people, because other people are only doing the best with the resources that they have and their experience in life through their own projections and their own perceptions. Do you know what I mean? So if I can give myself the grace to understand that about myself, then I should be able to understand that other people are in the same boat, and people who are, like, the example that's coming to my mind is, my dad, and he was violent and all sorts of stuff, and not a very nice man, but he had his own experience of life. He had his own things that went on that created his blueprint in life. And I think understanding this allows you to shift perspective a little bit and understand what it might be like from someone else's model of the world and blueprint. Thanks, Sean. Any other kind of thoughts or insights or?
I'm still trying to like. I think it takes me a while to get my head around it. I'm still trying to understand the whole like we only see it if it's in us, but like I'm wrestling with that, and I don't know what I'm not getting or getting. So I'm trying to figure that out. Is it like, because you were saying there, oh, you wish like, oh, you were like them or doing that there? Is that because like you? I don't know how to explain it.
I get what you're saying, Andy, because I'm grappling with that last part as well.
Is it like a self-awareness thing of kind of like we're aware that actually those things are good things that we want to go towards? Or like when we get frustrated, people like I think I'm gonna have to like look at that again and kind of, do you know what I mean? It's just,
if you rewind the clock a little bit and you think about how we create our experience from the inside out, right? So everything that's coming in through our senses is being filtered, right? It's being filtered through distortion, deletion, generalization, beliefs, values, experiences of the past, our blueprint of life, right? So when you see something good in somebody, it's coming from your blueprint. It's in you.
Or just that you can
So
recognize it.
imagine that you've never experienced, imagine you never experienced, give us a trait that you admire in someone.
compassion.
Compassion. Okay. So imagine you've never experienced compassion ever in your life. Like it just is wiped out of your mind completely. You never experienced that. If you came across somebody who was compassionate, you'd be like, you wouldn't understand what that was because you've no frame of reference inside of you.
So it's more like that frame of reference and like a foundational kind of construct of what you build upon, or like, is it like it feels just like a foundational thing then more than anything that just you're just, I don't know. But there's that bit there because that then affected my whole idea of projection and perception as well then, which I get more. I don't know how I'm getting it. I'm not getting that bit there as much.
I get the positive example. So the example you just used there, Whitney. So if you value and if you have experienced compassion and you know what that feels and you see it in somebody else, and I get that. What about the negative? You know, what about it is hard to get your head around, but what about like negative things that you perceive people doing, and we're saying that that's coming from within us as well.
Yeah.
So say somebody is, I have an example in my head about something in work, but say somebody is like a chancer, like a slacker, sort of, you know, really grinds my gears, that doesn't, everybody knows it, but they get away with it, right? And it's not even as in my team, it's an external person coming in. How does that fit into it? Because so I don't think that I'm a slacker. I don't think that I'm a chancer. Don't think that I'm no, maybe I am. Maybe that's what tell me.
Don't make me laugh.
But no, do you know what I mean? I can easily see how you can get the positive. You can see the positive, but the negative, I don't know.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So it does make sense. There's another thing that I want to introduce is the law of polarity, right? So the law of polarity is you can't have an up without a down. You can't have an in without an out. You can't have a black without a white. Okay. So you have two opposite ends of any kind of pole, right? Right in the middle is neutral, right? So it's a neutral space. So if you imagine that everybody's behavior is neutral, what someone says to you is just words, right? There's no meaning attached to any of it when it comes out of their mouth. It's just frequency and words and behavior. Now, what we do is we take all of that in, right? And then we have our own ways of filtering that, and we attach meaning to it. So we go, right, this guy did this thing, which means he's a slacker, right? Now, the question that but the reality of it is, this guy just did something, and you made it mean that he's a slacker, right? Now, the bit that you're asking about that is a little bit more tricky to wrap your head around is, what does that mean, that behavior thing mean for you, right? You recognize that he is a slacker, right? Because in your model of the world, you have a reference point for what a slacker is.
Yeah.
Right? Now, sometimes it's just a reference point that you've got, right? But sometimes it can be a part of you that you're denying in yourself, like a trait. Like times when you're a slacker, times when you slack off and don't do things the way that it should be done or whatever. Often we deny the negative side of ourselves, like the dark side of ourselves. We tend not to accept that that's a part of who we are. Yeah. So sometimes it's just a reference point, but sometimes it is a part of us that we're denying true.
Yeah.
Or it's an experience that needs healed. I don't know if that answers it, but it's the best I can do for now.
No, it does. It does.
You know what I think will help as well, guys, and just hearing like what you're talking about there, I'm just thinking back to the Unmasked podcast. When you listen to that, there's a lot of detail around how we perceive stuff and like how the brain works and all of that, which is quite interesting. So for me, hearing this now after watching that podcast, like what Vinty was saying there about, you know, when things grind your gears, it's an invitation to think about what's actually happening, and it goes back again then to responding rather than reacting, kind of thing. That's what's in my head anyway at the minute after watching the podcast. There was a thing done about can't remember now, what was it, like cup of tea being made wrong or something like that. Like there was no milk put in the tea, and like whoever was getting pissed off because there was no milk put in the tea, but then it was, well, that's not a big deal. What else could have happened? What could have went wrong? Oh, there is no milk. Maybe I could get up and get the milk and do all of these sort of things, you know. But I think the podcast might help frame that. I think it's helped me frame that bit of it anyway.
Yeah, no, I think I will for sure. Like Kevin was talking about, it's back to something I mentioned at the beginning of this one, was your significant emotional experiences. So if you're having a reaction to something, it's often linked back to a significant emotional experience that you've had in the past. So take that example of the cup of tea that Dan was talking about there. If someone makes you a cup of tea and it's not made right and you have an overreaction, like technically you shouldn't have an overreaction to something that is, you know, seemingly insignificant, like your cup of tea being made wrong. But if you have an overreaction, then it's often an indicator that there's something much deeper going on. So what Kevin was saying was, in that example, you know, it wasn't about the cup of tea. It was that this person was feeling that they weren't being listened to, or they weren't being treated well. So they had an internal representation that was, in order for me to be treated well, people will listen to me and give me a right cup of tea. And when I don't have a right cup of tea, then it triggers me and it makes me think, this person doesn't even like me, right? Now, the trick or the thing that Kevin was talking about was how you take that experience and you go, when was the first time that you felt, or what is it that you're feeling? I'm feeling unloved. Is that a normal feeling for you? Yeah. How far back does it go? Gosh, I felt unloved most of my life. So when was the very first time you felt unloved? Can you think of an experience? And then quite often you can track it back between 0 and 7 to a significant emotional experience that happened where as a child, it's this inner child work, where as a child, something happened where you felt unloved, you know, and you've taken that blueprint all the way into your adult life. And it's been exasperated to the point where if somebody doesn't do something right for you, then you make that mean that that person doesn't love you. Now, that answer is unconscious. That feeling is unconscious. The behavior is automatic, but the feeling is unconscious. So yeah, have a wee listen back to that. It does tie in with what we're talking about. How your unconscious mind is running the show. And your triggers are an invitation to kind of figure some of this out. Don't get too hung up on the perception as projection thing. Really, like, just know that there's stuff going on inside of you that's creating your experience. And as long as you know that, you know, you're onto a winner. Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. Any other questions? No. Excellent. Well, so we'll leave it there for tonight.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Happy days.
If you have if you have questions during the week or whatever, if you want any help with your goal setting, I have spaces this week. You can jump on. We can spend like 45 minutes and just rattle through it and go through it. Just send me a message. We'll find a time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
You're not a slacker, Sean. Don't worry.
I know I'm not. And you know what? It was a her, not a him.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Doesn't that fit my model of the world?
That's your yeah.
Yeah, automatically say yes. Isn't it?
That's picked up. I'm going to go and reflect on that now.
I hope this recording doesn't go out anywhere.
No. We'll just make sure we'll send it to that person where, you know. Anyway, listen, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Take care, guys. Have a good week.
See you later, lads.
Adios. Bye.
Bye-bye.